Good morning, and thank you all for coming. You will recall that in December of 2013, the Ministry of National Security announced that a collaborative group had begun meeting with the goal of producing a paper on cannabis policy reform. The Cannabis Reform Collaborative, or CRC, was formed after two of its members had approached me separately to express their interest in taking part in the public consultation that was announced in the Throne Speech 2013 on matters relating to current cannabis policies. The two men, Mr. Stratton Hatfield and Mr. Kamini Talabdin, were put together and subsequently recruited the remaining members of the CRC, and some of them are here today, and Mr. Hatfield will introduce them as we go through. Together, this group has experience and certainly varying levels of expertise in activism, law, addiction treatment, and drug education. The group has worked very diligently to consult with the public by conducting town hall-style meetings, focus groups, and an online survey. The level of public participation, particularly in the number of survey responses received, is indicative of the timeliness of the ongoing discussion on the future of cannabis policies in Bermuda. Undoubtedly, the public interest in local cannabis laws has been heightened by policy shifts in foreign jurisdictions related to cannabis use both for medical purposes and recreationally. Cannabis policy in Bermuda is far-reaching, affecting social, health, and our economic climate, and therefore requires a holistic approach to reform. This reform in this area must be done in a very measured response. The paper that will be presented to me in just a few moments by the CRC will be included in the ongoing policy review by the Ministry of National Security and the Department of National Drug Control. It will act as a springboard for further public consultation on this issue. Once I have had the opportunity to read and digest the information, I will share it with my cabinet colleagues. Then, it is intended that the paper will be tabled for information in the House of Assembly when the House resumes on May 9th. This will give the government an opportunity to have a frank and full discussion with honorable members in the chamber. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the members of the CRC who have done very important work. The group members have all volunteered their expertise and the many hours needed to produce what is sure to be a hefty and very comprehensive document. I look forward to reading it and using its information and its recommendations in the development of a modern cannabis policy here in Bermuda. I'd like to take this opportunity now to again thank Stratton and his team and introduce Stratton so he can say a few words and discuss briefly what the CRC is offering today. Stratton?
Thank you, Minister.
Welcome and thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Bermuda. On behalf of the CRC, I am pleased to be here today to present our final advisory document to the Minister. The report is titled An Advisory and Analysis of Cannabis Reform in Bermuda. I'm appreciative of our members that are here today, Mr. Kyle Bridgewater, Khomeini Talabdin, Lamar Keynes, and Alex Jones, and I'm also appreciative of the other members that were unable to attend today. Firstly, today I wanted to give thanks to some of the core people who have been involved with this process. Firstly, thank you to the Minister for empowering us to research this topic and bring it to a worthy debate in Bermuda. We have worked to provide the facts and recommendations for government to consider. Secondly, thank you to the members of the CRC who have remained committed and helped complete our responsibilities to present an extensive report. It has been an absolute pleasure working with everyone. Thank you. Thirdly, I want to thank the government and private stakeholders for their cooperation and assistance. Our report would not have been as detailed had we not have received your input. And finally, thank you to the community. Thank you for embracing the topic of cannabis reform and contributing to our public consultation. After all, this topic is something we all need to be discussing and we all need to be involved with. The topic of cannabis reform has been raised for some time in Bermuda, yet in the past, we haven't come together to solve this issue. Until now. Over the past 4 months, myself and 9 other concerned citizens have collaborated with each other to endure in a unique and informative fact-finding session. The CRC have assessed current cannabis policies and legislation in an effort to provide the government with factual information and the topic of cannabis reform. Our document is filled with relevant information that is directly connected to recommendations for consideration. We have consulted with many portions of the community through various outlets, including 7 focus groups, radio appearances, interaction on social media, a town hall forum, an e-survey which garnered over 1,000 responses, and individual meetings with dozens of stakeholders, including the DNDC, U.S. Consulate General, addiction counselors, lawyers, doctors, social workers, and cannabis users. As a volunteer committee, we have worked to produce an inclusive overview of cannabis reform, taking into account and not limited to health, human rights, cultural, and economic perspectives. Today, I wanted to briefly discuss some of the findings of our research. Individuals prosecuted and incarcerated for nonviolent crime related to cannabis are overwhelming the criminal justice system and negatively affecting people's lives. Between 2003 and 2008, there were 2,227 cannabis offenses, approximately 370 per year during that time. And in the period between 2011 and 2012, there were 822 cannabis offenses, averaging at about 411 per year. Furthermore, the criminalization of cannabis has been paralleled with disparity along racial lines in terms of enforcement, sentencing, incarceration, and related health issues, all of which greatly contribute to the social challenges of our community. Total possession charges are majority black males. However, importation charges are majority black females. Our research shows that a number of groups around the globe, such as lawmakers, enforcement officers, and medical practitioners, as well as civil rights groups, have called to dismantle these outdated policies and realign them in the context of human rights and dignity. In Bermuda, a total of $20.8 million was spent administering our drug plan in 2012. Treatment was the bulk of the cost at 60%, while enforcement was 35%, and the remaining amount was 3% allocated towards prevention. This shows a demand for Bermuda to focus on more prevention initiatives so as to reduce substance use and costly, expensive treatment. Cannabis as a medicinal substance is gaining global prominence, and there are an overwhelming amount of preclinical studies supporting the therapeutic substance. The community has identified strong interest in the growing medical research, and many are seeking more information and access. Based on the amount of diseases and conditions present in Bermuda, hundreds of people could benefit from access to medicinal cannabis and research. Significant shifts in policy and positions taken by a number of countries offer a range of possibilities in terms of legislative and policy reform. Our research shows that Bermuda can create a cannabis model that is localized for our community and could ensure portions of the population are not criminalized due to cannabis supply and use, ensure that we reduce government expenses and redirect funds towards demand reduction efforts, provide stronger and broader prevention initiatives, supply treatment for people with cannabis dependence, and lastly, empower the people to be more knowledgeable about cannabis uses and effects. There's much to review and discuss out of our 130-page analysis. We look forward to presenting our final recommendations to the public once the Minister has had a chance to review our report. Minister Dunkley, gives us great pleasure to deliver this report to you. And on behalf of the CRC, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Happy Easter.
Would it be out of place to ask you what reception you received from the U.S. Consul General?
We had an excellent reception from the U.S. Consulate General. One thing that he stated is that federally, the law in the United States remains the same. So until the drug, cannabis, is reclassified out of the Schedule 1, the laws will remain the same and be applied internationally. So that was one of the big pieces that we got out of that. Any reform that takes place in Bermuda doesn't have a difference in the United States.
I just wanted to actually ask you, Stratton, or Minister even, how hard has it been against the voice of Alan Gordon? No personal attacks, but I knew that he's been very vocal. He's always posting different things. Was that difficult to do your work, particularly in the beginning when people were saying he should have been on the committee, for example? How difficult or challenging, I'll say, did it make your work against his backdrop?
We have been very appreciative of Mr. Alan Gordon's activism and intentions to educate the public about this topic. I can say personally, I have not found it challenging to see his approach. He has been pushing this topic for a long time. He's someone that's very passionate, and if anything, we've been very appreciative of his assistance and recommendations in social media, in the press, and in passing. So,
May
yeah.
I just ask one more question? We'll get a copy of the report, I presume.
Yes.
But it's not a final report. You say there are still recommendations to come forward?
Well, let me explain that a little bit more. As I said in my statement earlier, I will take this away, I'll review it. I intend to sit down and have a detailed presentation from the committee in a short period of time. Then the report will be tabled in the House of Assembly for debate. Once it's tabled, then it will be made public and we'll put it up on our website and we'll go from there. I think because these gentlemen came to me with the suggestion to get involved, I'd like to take the opportunity to read it, give it to some of my cabinet colleagues first, and also because we committed to this in the throne speech, give the House of Assembly the opportunity to have at first sight this report so we can have a debate, and at the same time the public will see it from there.
I'm sorry, I'm a little confused.
But that's normal on a day before holiday for most of us.
Thank you. I'm looking at it from the point of view of we will get the report, find out what their major recommendations were.
Once it's tabled in the House, everyone will have access to the report.
And they say they're going to come back afterwards and give you further recommendations?
No, they're going to meet with me and discuss the report in detail to flesh out any questions I might have after the ministry has the opportunity to read through it.